The Astros take 2 out of 3 from a rather talented Arizona Diamondbacks team. The first 2 games of the series, rather, the Astros were able to win rather handily, but some concerns are continuing to grow with Justin Verlander amidst his latest starts, in which he gives up 8 earned runs in the series finale. Plus, a shocking discovery for Kyle Tucker on his injury, and also, of course, a couple of other things with regards to how the Astros will be keeping him and Bregman healthy for their stretch run as they push for the playoffs. All that and so much more is coming up next. Stay tuned. It was a good weekend in Houston as the Astros took 2 out of 3 from the Arizona Diamondbacks. However, our biggest concern at this point should be Verlander. We're going to talk about him here shortly, but let's break down the first 2 games of this series first. Really quickly, though, I don't think I have a lot of injury updates to share for once, which is kind of surprising. I have at least one injury update to share between either Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, maybe an injured pitcher or 2. But surprisingly, I don't really have much to share. Mauricio Dubon, I do have one minor injury update to share on him. He had accidentally hurt his thumb while sliding into first base. And personally, I don't understand why players actually do this, because it really does more harm than good. Because not only do you risk injuring yourself, which is what Mauricio Dubon just did. X-rays on his thumb came back negative, by the way. He's going to be day-to-day. I'm not sure when he'll be back. I'm sure he'll be back soon. But, not only do you risk hurting yourself, with what Mauricio Dubon did, but, the risk with doing that is that you don't really give the umpire on first base, an audible call of you stomping on the bag so that he can ensure that he, makes the correct call the first time. And yes, I know that we have replayed, but, again, it's better to not resort to it and have the game get delayed because of that. Again, I'm not sure why he does that, because, it slows you down because of the friction. And, again, like I said, it does more harm than good. So, that's really the one injury update I have to share for this video. So, let's dive right into breaking down this series, starting here in this first game. Yordan Alvarez and Framber Valdez were the 2 men that led the Astros to this victory. Valdez went 7 innings and struck out 7. Singleton did get nabbed on home plate on what would have been the first run of the game for the Astros, but Dubon would come through later on in the inning with 2 outs to bat home Ben Gamel, who would give the Astros a 1-0 lead, and then the rest of that is history. Yordan Alvarez, like I said, would hit 2 3-run blasts, giving the Astros 6 RBIs, and Kyle Tucker would get a standing ovation in his return. But real quickly, though, we do have one shocking discovery that I do want to share on Kyle Tucker, in that he actually did in fact have an actual fracture on his shin. And this is kind of what I was talking about in a couple of videos, in that usually there's always a secret that's kept from us fans, and this is a prime example of that. Now, whether it was a fracture or just a contusion, it probably would not have made a huge difference. But again, there really should not be any secrets kept from us fans if they can help it. Now, there are some things that, of course, that are straight up just none of our business as fans, and I can respect that. But when it comes to injuries, if it's been more than a month, then without much information on that, then we fans should really deserve to know. But, again, I'm not going to worry too much about that. Let's dive right into the second game of this series. I was in attendance at this game, and it was a blast. So, I got to see Yusei Kikuchi go 6 innings, and the Astros, despite the fact that they were down 3-1 going into the bottom of the 4th inning, they would get a 4 spot, which would allow them to take the lead. And it started with Chas McCormick, who had been struggling as of late. He had a fantastic series this week. He would get started with a 2-run single to tie the game at 3. And in addition to that hit, Jose Altuve and also Yordan Alvarez would each chip in with 3 hits apiece. One of Altuve's hits was a home run late in the game to make it 11-5 Astros, and that would put him 1 home run away from a 2020 season, which would be a first for him since his MVP season in 2017. Eugenio Suarez for the D-backs would hit a home run in the top of the 6th to make it 5-4 Astros, but the Astros would break it open in the bottom half of the inning, scoring 5 times, capped off by a 3-1 blast by Jeremy Pena. And like I said, that would be one of 2 home runs the Astros would hit as a team over the course of this game. Like I said, Altuve would go yard to make it 11-5 late, and that would be the final score in this game, as Rodel Blanco, who would come out of the bullpen for the first time this season, albeit temporarily, because after today's off day, the Astros will be going back to a 6-man rotation, seeing that they're going to be going, I think, 16 or 17 straight games without an off day. The final off day of the season the Astros will be getting is going to be on the Thursday after their final home game of the season against the Mariners. Now, I mean, that's going to be a pretty big series. Not only could it play major impact on the division, but it could also ensue the fact that the Astros are going to be in the final 3 games of this super long stretch. So fatigue could be setting in pretty easily in that series. We'll see what happens. But lastly, let's go ahead and dive straight here into Game 3 as Justin Verlander's troublesome starts continue as he allows 8 earned runs, 7 of which came to Pavon Smith on not 1 but 2 home runs. Pavon Smith had actually been responsible for all but I think 1 or 2 of the RBIs to this point in the game. I mean, he didn't get all 12 of Arizona's runs, but he got at least 2/3 of them on home runs. He was a 2-run home run shy of the home run cycle in this game, which, I mean, I could go back and look, but I'm 99% certain that has never happened before. Where, I mean, obviously hitting for the cycle as a whole, like just getting base hits or whatever, has happened several times in MLB history. But have we ever seen it like happen on home runs before? Like, you know, a solo home run, a 2-run home run, a 3-run home run, and then a grand slam. I don't think that has ever happened before. And I mean, it's crazy to think that this one guy, Pavon Smith for Arizona, was actually flirting with this. And he had come into this game, I think, like hitting just 3 home runs in the last 40 plus games. I mean, I get that this is just how baseball is, but this is ridiculous. Verlander's spot in the playoff rotation, even on the playoff roster for that matter, is in serious jeopardy. It's kind of getting crazy to see him like this. I mean, there's not rumors that he could be retiring after this season. Obviously, of course, this is a personal matter for the player. I'm not going to force him to retire. But like, he might as well retire after this season because he's 41 years old, and he's certainly on the wrong side of 41. He has yet to even throw a scoreless outing since coming off the injured list. I mean, he did throw a clean first inning to start this game, and I thought that right then that my trust would be getting back to him, I guess. Obviously, of course, that first run was clearly just a bit of a fluke, and I mean, he needs a lot more than that. But yeah, he got 0 strikeouts in this game, the 5th time in 500 plus career starts that he had done that, and first time since 2017. And this would also be his 2nd shortest start since joining the Astros, and the 8 runs allowed are his most since April of 2017, and he was still with Detroit. So yeah, I mean, this was arguably one of the worst starts in his career, and I mean, this is certainly troublesome, not just for us Astros fans, but for him personally, and whether he's going to be making the playoff rotation. I mean, if the season were to end today, then I mean, as much as I would hate to say it, I wouldn't want him on there. Otherwise, I mean, but since we still have like 3.5 plus weeks during the regular season, I mean, I would probably give him a couple of chances. I mean, he's still going to be, given the chance to try and get things in shape before the playoffs. But for the time being, dude, his spot on the playoff roster as a whole is in serious jeopardy, and he needs to try to get it together. But anyway, before I wrap up this video, as far as the resting days go, I do think that the Astros' priority is trying to keep Tucker and Bregman healthy for this big stretch run that we're going on. Obviously, Justin Verlander needs to try and get his act together, but he's only going to be given the opportunity to do that like every single week because he's a pitcher. I mean, the big priority is trying to keep Bregman and Tucker healthy, seeing that they're going to be dealing with injuries that will be plaguing them for the rest of the season. And obviously that certainly is a big deal. So, as we all know, Tucker was activated from the injured list prior to Friday's game against the D-backs, as he missed most of the first half and pretty much most of the summer with that right shin fracture, in which he had suffered back in June. But meanwhile, Bregman has been dealing with elbow inflammation for the past 3 weeks, which had kept him out of the lineup for most of August and also for a couple of games this month. But what complicates the matter more for Espada is the fact that the Astros want to limit how much Yordan Alvarez plays in left field because of his knees. And so for those of you guys who may or may not know, Yordan Alvarez had actually gotten surgery on both of his knees back in 2020, ending his rather which made him miss the rather shortened pandemic season. But point being that the Astros usually hardly ever play Yordan Alvarez at left field, especially games here at Minute Maid Park or even Globe Life Field, because both of those ballparks use turf for their outfield grass. And the last thing you'd want to see happen is have him slip out there. And the only other spot we've seen Yordan play these days is DH. And if he does DH, then that's a spot that Tucker and or Bregman won't be able to play. And given the fact that they only have just a couple of games left, I we would obviously want to ensure that those guys can stay healthy. Now, ordinarily, the Astros would be giving both of these guys as much rest as they deem necessary before the postseason, but the AL West standings say otherwise. And even if we had clinched the AL West at this point, we probably still would certainly be giving them rest. But even if we hadn't clinched the AL West, we still have a lot to play for. And the fact that we're chasing the AL Central leading Cleveland Guardians for the second seed in the playoffs, which would give them a bye into the division series. Obviously, of course, every manager is aware of the standings, but what manager isn't these days? The top goal, of course, for Espada is making sure Bregman and Tucker can stay on the field. And, that is important, because if they can't stay on the field for some reason, then, good luck for us making a deep run in the playoffs. And should the Astros make the playoffs and mount another deep postseason run, then they would be playing at most 3 consecutive days. And that could possibly happen 3 times, depending on what playoff seed we make, depending on what seed we are in the AL. Of course, that would be all 3 games of the AL wildcard series if we don't clinch the bye. That would be games 3, 4, and 5 of the American League Championship Series without an off day. And then also in the World Series, should we make it there, games 3, 4, and 5, which, that would be a pretty good problem to have. But, for the time being, the only solution to that is we just have to hope that the middle of the order can play more consistently and also contribute more consistently. But overall, it certainly is a juggling act for Joe Espada between these 3 guys that have, ailments that are that they're going to have to deal with. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Next up for the Astros, they'll be wrapping up this 6-game homestand with the A's coming to town. The A's are certainly going to be a pest for us. They may not be in last place. They have been a red-hot team since the All-Star break, and, they took 2 out of 3 against us in Oakland the last time we played them. So, we need to get revenge on that, I guess. But the offense did enough in this game against the D-backs. I probably should have said earlier. This was solely not on our offense at all. It was solely on Verlander for the fact that we're down 8-0. We chipped away for most of the evening, but the closest we got was 9-5 in the 5th inning, and then the Diamondbacks just ended up scoring 3 more times. I think all of which, the last of which coming on a home run from Josh Hader, which would be the 11th that he's allowed this season. That's definitely a big concern for him as we go down the stretch here. Like I said, the offense had absolutely nothing to do with this loss. They chipped at it for the most part, but this offense was solely on Verlander. Because if he doesn't get us in this hole to begin with, we win this game easily, and I'd be talking about a sweep in this video. But sadly, that's just not the case. Alrighty, guys, so that's going to do it for this video, for real this time. So if you guys liked it, consider leaving a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. And if you want to watch any more of my other stuff, click these cards here above my shoulders. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed, like I said, and I'll see you guys in the next one.